Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a stack of sources articles, legal filings, financial breakdowns about a single individual.
Yep.
And we're going to try to answer a question that, honestly, it just baffles me.
What's that?
How does a man get fired from a corporate job at age 32 with no money, forced to borrow 10 grand from his mother just to pay rent,
Right.
and end up reshaping the entire skyline of New York City and owning an NFL franchise?
It sounds like fiction. I mean, if you pitch this as a screenplay, they tell you the second act is just too unrealistic.
Right. But we are talking about Stephen M. Ross.
Stephen M. Ross.
Yeah.
The man, the myth, the mega developer.
The man behind related companies, Hudson Yards, the Miami Dolphins. But I want to be really clear right off the bat.
Okay.
This isn't just a biography. We aren't here to just list the buildings he bought or, his net worth.
Right. If we just list his assets, we completely miss the point. We're here to understand the anatomy of a mega developer.
The anatomy, I like that.
We need to look at how tax law, real estate, and professional sports ownership intersect. Because when you peel back the layers on Ross, you realize these aren't separate businesses.
No.
They are all pieces of one massive self-sustaining ecosystem.
That's what jumped out at me in all the research. He's not just a guy who likes football and also happens to like skyscrapers.
Right. Yeah.
There is a very specific machinery underneath it all. It's all about leverage. It's about incentives.
And it's about understanding the rules better than anyone else in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, the boring rules.
The tax code.
The tax code. That's the secret.
We're going to get deep into the weeds on that because I think that's the secret sauce here. We have a lot to cover.
A ton.
We've got the origin story in Detroit, the aha moment with affordable housing, the massive gamble of Hudson Yards.
The whole Miami Dolphins saga.
And, of course, the controversies, which are significant.
Oh, yeah.
But let's start at the beginning. Because before he was a billionaire, he was just a kid in Detroit.
Born in 1940, a Jewish family in Detroit. He goes to Mumford High School. And I think to understand Ross, you really have to look at his education.
Okay.
It's not the typical path for a developer. Not at all.
I was looking at this timeline. It's pretty exhaustive. He starts at the University of Florida.
Right.
Then transfers to the University of Michigan, which, becomes this huge part of his life later on. Gets a BBA in 1962.
Standard stuff so far.
Then he goes to Wayne State for a law degree. But then, and this is the part where I really paused, he goes to NYU.
For a Master of Laws in Taxation. An LLM.
Taxation. Okay, help me out here. Usually when we talk about real estate tycoons, we're talking about these guys with big personalities, sales guys, maybe architects.
Guys who can sell a vision.
Exactly. A master's degree in taxation sounds dry.
It is dry. It's incredibly dry. But that is the superpower. See, most people look at a building and see bricks, glass, maybe a nice lobby. They see rental income.
Right. They see the physical thing.
Ross looks at a building and sees a depreciation schedule. He sees tax credits. He sees a vehicle for sheltering income.
So he's seeing the matrix code behind the building.
He's seeing the matrix code. That's it. He's looking at the invisible financial structure that makes the physical structure possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that specific degree, that specialized knowledge of the tax code, is the tool that eventually builds the entire empire.
But it didn't happen immediately.
Oh, no.
Not even close.
Right. Because first, he has to fail. And he fails hard. He moves to New York, works at Bear Stearns in corporate finance. This is the late 60s, early 70s.
It's a prestigious job. I mean, Bear Stearns. But Ross, while all the reports suggest he wasn't great at taking orders.
Doesn't play well with others.
He had a certain arrogance or maybe just a conviction that he knew better. So in 1972, he gets into a big conflict with a superior. And it's not just, a slap on the wrist.
No.
He gets fired.
I wanted to pause on this moment because it's so easy to gloss over in retrospect. It's 1972. You are 32 years old.
Yeah. You have a law degree, a master's degree. You're in the most competitive city on earth, and you just got canned.
Utterly terrifying.
That is a terrifying position to be in.
It is. And he wasn't sitting on some pile of cash. The sources all say he literally didn't have the liquidity to maintain his lifestyle. He had to go to his mother.
His mom.
And borrow $10,000.
Which, accounting for inflation, is about $67,000 today. So it's a keep the lights on loan.
It's not seed capital for an empire.
No, it's survival money.
It's please don't get evicted from my apartment money. And this is the pivot point. This is where most people would polish the resume, maybe shave the mustache, and go interview at another bank.
Right. Get back on the horse.
Ross decides he is done answering to people. He decides to leverage the one thing he has that others don't.
The tax degree.
That deep, technical knowledge of tax law.
And this brings us to the first big chapter of his success, affordable housing. But he wasn't building it, right? He was structuring it.
Correct. He wasn't the guy with the hard hat, not yet.
I need you to explain this to me like I'm 5 years old. Or maybe like I'm a dentist in 1972 with some extra cash. What exactly was Ross selling? Because he wasn't pouring concrete yet.
Okay, let's role play. You're a wealthy dentist or a partner at a law firm in 1972. You're making, say, $100,000 a year, which is a lot of money back then.
A huge amount.
But the top marginal tax rate in the 70s was incredibly high, over 50%, sometimes up to 70%.
So the government is just taking this huge chunk of my money. I'm looking for a way to keep it.
You're desperate to keep it. Exactly. So enter Stephen Ross. He comes to you and says, I have an investment opportunity in government-subsidized affordable housing.
Okay, that doesn't sound very sexy. Affordable housing?
No, it doesn't sound like a big moneymaker. Rents are capped. But Ross explains the tax side of it. The federal government wants this housing built, so they offer massive incentives. Specifically, they allow you to accelerate depreciation.
Depreciation. Okay, so on paper, the building is losing value.
On paper, yes, even if it's appreciating in the real world. So Ross structures a deal where you, the dentist, put in, say, $10,000 cash.
Okay, I'm in for 10 grand.
But because of how the tax laws work then, that investment allows you to claim a loss on your taxes that is much, much larger than your actual cash investment.
So it's a paper loss.
It's a paper loss.
Yeah.
Let's say you can claim a $40,000 loss on paper. You take that $40,000 loss, you apply it against your dentist income, and suddenly that $20,000 you were going to pay to the IRS, it's gone. You owe them nothing.
Wait, so I give Ross $10,000 and I save $20,000 in taxes?
Yes.
I've just made money instantly by signing a piece of paper.
Precisely. You made a 100% return on your money via the tax code, regardless of whether the building ever collects a single dime in rent.
Wow.
Ross wasn't selling apartments. He was selling tax shelters. He was syndicating these deals, pooling money from all these wealthy investors who needed to hide income, and then using that money to back the actual affordable housing developers.
That is, well, it's genius. It's completely genius. And it explains why that tax degree was so important.
Everything.
A regular developer wouldn't know how to structure the partnership to maximize those write-offs.
No way. He monetized the boring stuff. He realized that the government was effectively handing out free money to encourage this kind of housing, but you needed a translator to access it.
And he was the translator.
He was the Rosetta Stone for tax shelters.
Yeah.
In his first year, 1972, the same year he was fired and broke, he made $150,000.
That is a massive amount of money for 1972. That's top 1% income, like immediately.
Immediately. And that is the birth of related companies.
Which was originally called related housing companies.
Exactly. It was built entirely on this specific niche, subsidized low to moderate income housing. For years, he became one of the biggest affordable housing developers in the country.
It's just fascinating because today the brand related means the exact opposite.
The total opposite.
It means $10 million condos, Equinox gyms, Hudson Yards luxury. It's the definition of elite. How does he bridge that gap? How do you go from Section 8 housing to selling penthouses to oligarchs?
It's two things, capital and confidence. The affordable housing business is great because it's really low risk. The government guarantees the rent.
Built-in safety net.
Right. And it generates steady cash flow, so it built his balance sheet. By the 1980s, he has enough of his own money to start taking bigger and bigger risks.
And he starts moving into Manhattan.
He starts moving into Manhattan. He starts hiring starchitects, famous architects like Robert A.M. Stern. He wants his buildings to be landmarks.
He moves from need to want.
That's a great way to put it. Affordable housing is a need product. Luxury real estate is a want product.
An aspirational product.
Totally. And Ross realized that if you wanted to leave a mark on the skyline and make billions instead of millions, he had to capture that want market.
Which leads us to the behemoth. I mean, the portfolio today is valued at over $60 billion.
It's staggering.
They are everywhere. London, Abu Dhabi, LA, Chicago. But the crown jewel, the thing that I think will define his obituary one day, is Hudson Yards.
The city within a city.
I walked through there recently. It is just, it's overwhelming. It feels like a different planet compared to the rest of Hell's Kitchen.
It does.
But the backstory of just building it is insane.
It is the largest private real estate development in the history of the United States.
Largest?
Ever. 28 acres on the west side of Manhattan. But here is the kicker, and this is what blows people's minds. There was no land there.
What do you mean there was no land? I've stood on it.
What you were standing on was man-made. It was an active Long Island Railroad train yard. Dozens of tracks with trains running 20/47.
Ciao.
To build Hudson Yards, Ross had to build a massive platform over the trains.
Wait. So the skyscrapers, the vessel, the mall, it's all sitting on a giant table.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
A ridiculously complex and expensive table. They had to drill these huge support pillars called caissons down into the bedrock between the train tracks.
While the trains were running.
While the trains were running.
Right.
Without hitting the trains or the high voltage lines. And then they had to build a massive concrete and steel deck on top of those pillars. And then they could start building the 100-story buildings on top of that deck.
The engineering risk alone is staggering.
It's mind-boggling.
And what about the cost?
Just the platform, just to create the fake ground cost, roughly $1 billion per acre.
$1 billion an acre.
$1 billion.
Just to get to ground zero, before you even lay a single brick for a lobby. That sounds like financial suicide. Why would anyone ever do that?
Because if you pull it off, you own an entire neighborhood in Manhattan. Think about it. Usually developers fight over one lot, one corner.
A single building.
Right. Ross manufactured 28 acres of prime real estate out of thin air. But to make it pay off, he needed tenants. And not just any tenants. He needed companies that could pay top-tier premium rents to cover those astronomical construction costs.
And this brings us to this placemaking concept. I read this story about Coach, the handbag company, and I think it perfectly illustrates how Ross operates.
The Coach story is the textbook example of Ross's deal-making style. It really is. He needed an anchor tenant.
The first domino.
Exactly. Without a big name, no one else comes. So he wanted Coach to move their global headquarters to Hudson Yards. Coach was, skeptical.
Of course. Why would they move to a noisy construction zone over a rail yard? It's far west. It's totally unproven.
Right. So Ross didn't just offer them a good lease. He offered to alter the physical reality of the building for them.
What does that mean?
Coach wanted a specific kind of internal flow for their creative teams, this very open, collaborative feel. So Ross redesigned the tower to include a massive multi-story atrium right in the middle of the building.
In the middle?
Yes, specifically for them. He carved out what would have been tens of thousands of square feet of valuable rentable office space.
So he sacrificed rent money just to create a vibe for one tenant.
Yes. He sacrificed rentable space to create a wow factor that closed the deal. And once Coach signed on the dotted line, the entire narrative changed. Suddenly, Hudson Yards wasn't a risky rail yard project. It was the new home of American luxury fashion.
And then everyone else follows.
Then L'Oreal came. Then SAP came. Then the private equity giant KKR came. It's the domino effect.
And this is where we see the difference between just being a landlord and being a placemaker.
It's a huge difference. A landlord rents you 4 walls and a floor. A placemaker curates an entire environment. Ross didn't just build offices. He built The Shed, a world-class cultural center.
He built the vessel, that giant honeycomb staircase sculpture that everyone takes pictures of.
He put in restaurants from Thomas Keller and Jose Andres, high-end destination dining.
And he put in Equinox.
Right, and this is crucial. This is the ecosystem part. Related Companies is a major investor in Equinox Fitness and SoulCycle.
So he builds the condo you live in. He builds the office you work in. And he owns the gym where you work out downstairs.
And the restaurant where you have dinner. He captures every single slice of your day. It's the vertical integration of the human lifestyle.
It's almost like living on a cruise ship that never leaves the dock. You never have to leave the Stephen Ross ecosystem.
That is the goal. You control the environment, you control the spend.
Now, speaking of control, we have to pivot. We have to go to the other massive pillar of his life.
Okay.
We've covered the tax attorney and the builder. Now we have to talk about the sports tycoon.
The Miami Dolphins.
This feels like a totally different world, but you argued earlier that it's the same muscle group. How does that work?
It's all about asset appreciation and leverage.
Sure.
So Russ buys 95% of the Dolphins in the stadium for about $1.1 billion around 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And people thought, okay, another rich guy buys a toy. But Ross didn't treat it like a toy. He treated it like a distressed real estate asset.
And the stadium was aging, right? It wasn't a great venue.
It was a concrete bowl. It had been beaten up by the Florida sun. It wasn't generating the kind of revenue it could. Now, usually, this is the part of the story where the billionaire owner goes to the city council.
With his hand out.
And says, build me a brand new shiny stadium. Or I'm moving the team to Los Angeles or San Antonio or wherever.
We see it constantly. It's happening in Buffalo, Tennessee, Vegas. It's the standard playbook.
It is the playbook, and Ross tried it. In 2013, he went to the state of Florida and asked for public money, about $3 million a year for 30 years for renovations.
Yeah, and they said no.
The Florida legislature shut him down, flatly.
So typically, this is where the owner throws a tantrum. Fine, I'm taking my team and leaving.
Ross didn't. He did something that absolutely shocked the NFL community.
What did he do?
He reached into his own pocket and spent roughly $500 million of his own money to completely renovate Hard Rock Stadium.
$500 million. Now, I have to be skeptical here. Why? Is he just a benevolent fan who loves the city of Miami? Or is there a cold, hard, calculated reason to spend $500 million of your own cash?
Oh, it's absolutely calculated, 100%. Think about it. If you take public money, you have public strings attached.
Yeah.
The city wants a cut of the parking revenue. The county wants a say in what events you host. The state wants to know why you're charging so much for a beer.
But if you pay for it yourself.
You own the revenue streams, all of them. And Ross had a vision that went way, way beyond just football. He looked at that stadium and realized that an NFL stadium sits empty 350 days a year.
It's a terribly wasted asset.
It's a terrible use of real estate. Exactly. So he renovated the stadium to make it a global entertainment hub. He put a roof over the seats. He upgraded all the suites.
And he brought in tennis.
He brought in the Miami Open tennis tournament. He poached it from its longtime home in Key Biscayne. He built a permanent world-class tennis complex on the grounds of the football stadium.
And then the big one, Formula One.
The Miami Grand Prix. This is a masterclass in logistics and, frankly, in lobbying. He managed to secure a 10-year exclusive contract with F1.
Which is a huge deal.
Huge. But the problem was, where do you race? He couldn't shut down downtown Miami like they do in Monaco or Singapore. The local opposition was just too strong.
So he looked at his own parking lot.
He looked at the vast expanse of land surrounding Hard Rock Stadium. And critics laughed at first. They said, you're going to race these incredible F1 cars in a parking lot.
Right.
But Ross saw a campus. He built a temporary, purpose-built circuit. They call it the Miami International Autodrome. It winds all around the stadium.
I looked into the engineering of this. It's not just painting lines on asphalt.
No.
F1 cars create immense G-forces and suction. They had to lay specialized, high-grade racing asphalt on top of the existing grounds, ensure drainage, build FIA-certified safety barriers.
And then a few weeks later, turn it all back into a parking lot for football season.
A logistical nightmare.
A nightmare. But it worked. The event is a massive cash cow. VIP tickets cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And because Ross owns the stadium and the land and paid for the upgrades himself,
He captures all of that revenue.
he captures the lion's share. He turned a football field into a 365-day entertainment district that hosts a Super Bowl, a college football championship, a tennis major, and a Formula One race.
It connects right back to Hudson Yards. It's placemaking again. He's not selling a race. He's selling the Miami Grand Prix experience.
With the yachts and the fake marina and the celebrity clubs, yes.
He sells the sizzle, and the state comes along for the ride.
That's his whole model.
But he's also a bit of a maverick within that exclusive NFL owners circle, right? He doesn't always just vote with the pack.
No, he really doesn't. The best example of this is the Raiders vote back in 2017.
Okay.
The NFL owners voted 31-1 to approve the Oakland Raiders moving to Las Vegas.
And Ross was the one.
He was the lone dissenter, the only no vote.
Why? I mean, Las Vegas is a gold mine. Why would a guy who loves money so much vote against moving a team to Vegas?
His public reasoning was that he believed the owners hadn't done enough to try to keep the team in Oakland. He felt that there was a social contract with the fan base.
Interesting.
He thought that moving teams too frequently, and you have to remember the Rams and Chargers had just moved to L.A., eroded the long-term value of the NFL brand itself.
He was worried about fan loyalty.
He basically said, if we treat these teams like interchangeable widgets that we can just move around a chessboard, eventually the fans will stop caring.
That's surprisingly principled, or at least it's a very long-term view versus a short-term cash grab.
It is. He also threw some not-so-subtle shade at the Chargers ownership, suggesting they didn't really try hard enough to stay in San Diego. It made him a bit of a hero to fans who hate seeing their teams relocated.
However, and this is a massive, massive however, we cannot paint Stephen Ross as some saint of integrity without looking at what's happened in the last few years.
Oh, we cannot.
Because for all his talk about doing things the right way, he recently got absolutely hammered by the NFL for cheating.
We have to get into the controversy and complexity segment. This is where the story gets much, much darker.
The Brian Flores lawsuit and the tampering investigation. Let's break this down because the details really matter here.
Okay, so it all started with Brian Flores, who was the head coach of the Dolphins. He was fired, and he filed this scorching lawsuit against the NFL and the Dolphins alleging racial discrimination.
Right.
But buried inside that lawsuit was a grenade.
The tanking allegations.
The tanking allegation. He claimed that Stephen Ross offered him $100,000 for every single game he lost during the 2019 season.
Paying to lose.
Which is the cardinal sin in all of sports. If you are fixing matches, which is what losing on purpose is, you're defrauding the fans, and more importantly to the NFL, you are defrauding the gambling markets.
It threatens the entire existence of the league.
Absolutely. So the NFL launches this huge independent investigation. Mary Jo White, former SEC chair, leads it. What do they find?
It was nuanced.
The finding was very nuanced, and it's important to be precise here. The investigation found no evidence that the Dolphins intentionally lost games to improve their draft position.
So he was cleared of the actual tanking.
Officially, yes.
Yeah.
Ross claimed the comment about the $100,000 was a joke made in frustration, and the investigators said they couldn't prove it was a serious offer. So they cleared him on that. However, the investigation found something else. Something they weren't even looking for initially.
Tampering.
Massive, repeated, and unprecedented tampering.
Explain the difference. Why is tampering such a big deal?
Tampering is illegally recruiting a player or coach who is under contract with another team. It's breaking the fundamental gentleman's agreement of the league that keeps it from being the Wild West.
Okay.
The investigation found that Ross and the Dolphins had impermissible communications with Tom Brady while he was still playing for the New England Patriots.
A division rival.
A division rival. And then again later when he was under contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And it wasn't just like a text message, right?
Oh, no. We're talking about a secret meeting on Ross's yacht in the marina. They were trying to lure Brady to Miami, possibly as a minority owner, and then eventually as the quarterback.
And it wasn't just Brady.
No. They also tampered with Sean Payton while he was the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, trying to get him to be their coach.
So while he was publicly preaching loyalty to the fans in Oakland, he was secretly trying to poach the biggest star in football history from another team?
That is the contradiction. And the punishment from the NFL was severe. They stripped the Dolphins of their 2023 first-round draft pick and a 2024 third-round pick.
For listeners who don't follow football that closely, losing a first-round pick is a disaster.
It's a franchise-crippling penalty.
That is a potential future superstar you don't get to draft. It sets the team back for years.
And Ross himself was fined $1.5 million personally and suspended for several months. He was removed from all his NFL committees. It was a total humiliation.
It brings up this really interesting psychological question for me. Here is a guy who built his entire fortune on finding legal loopholes, the tax shelters we talked about earlier.
Right, reading the rule book better than anyone else.
He reads the rule book and finds the gray area. But in the NFL, it seems like he just decided to ignore the rule book completely.
It's the hubris of the billionaire. I mean, when you have spent 40 years literally reshaping the skyline of New York City, when you have built a city over a rail yard, you start to believe the word no is just a suggestion.
That the rules apply to other people.
Exactly. He wanted Tom Brady. He didn't want to wait for free agency, so he took a shot.
And he missed badly.
He missed, and it cost his team dearly.
That tension between being a visionary and a rule breaker shows up in his politics, too.
It absolutely does. Ross is the classic checkbook participant in politics. He donates to everyone.
He plays both sides.
Totally. He's given a lot of money to Chuck Schumer and Andrew Cuomo, powerful Democrats in New York, which you have to do if you want to build in the city. But he's also a longtime major Republican donor.
And this blew up in his face in a huge way in 2019.
The Hamptons fundraiser. Ross hosted this very high-dollar fundraiser for Donald Trump's re-election campaign at his estate out in the Hamptons.
And the backlash was immediate. But it was targeted not at him personally, but at his brands.
And this is the danger of that lifestyle business model we talked about. If you just sold concrete and steel, nobody would care.
Right.
But Ross owns SoulCycle and Equinox. And who goes to SoulCycle?
Generally, younger, urban, more liberal-leaning consumers.
Exactly. The very people who were most virulently opposed to the Trump presidency. So you have this massive viral campaign to cancel memberships. People were posting screenshots of their cancellation emails.
It was a complete PR nightmare for those companies.
It forced the CEOs of Equinox and SoulCycle to put out these statements basically saying, we have nothing to do with our owners' personal politics. No company profits go to politicians.
They had to distance the brand from the man who owns the brand.
A very awkward position to be in.
It's a tricky needle to thread, and Ross basically said, look, I've known Trump for years. I like his economic policies. Get over it. He didn't apologize.
No, he didn't. He doubled down.
Yeah.
In 2021, his super PAC spent a ton of money to oppose progressive Democrats who were running for office in New York City.
So he's not backing down.
Not at all. He operates on the belief that his money gives him a voice and he's going to use it, regardless of what the SoulCycle writers in Soho think.
Which makes his philanthropy even more confusing or complex. If you look at where he gives his money, it doesn't align with the conservative billionaire stereotype at all.
No, it really doesn't. He is the single largest donor in the entire history of the University of Michigan.
The largest ever.
He's given nearly $500 million. The number is $478 million.
The business school is named after him, the Ross School of Business.
After a $100 million gift. But it's not just buildings. Look at an organization he founded called RISE.
RISE, the Ross Initiative in Sports for Equality.
He founded this in 2015. The mission is specifically to fight racism and promote social justice within the sports industry. He's put millions and millions of his own dollars into this. He partners with the NAACP, with all the major leaguers.
Okay, so let me just get this straight. He funds a massive anti-racism initiative.
Yes.
But he's a major supporter of Donald Trump, who many people accuse of racist rhetoric.
Yes.
And he gets sued by his own black head coach for racial discrimination in hiring practices.
Yes, that too. It's messy.
It's a flat-out contradiction.
Or it's compartmentalization. I think Ross views these things as separate silos in his life. In his mind, RISE is a good thing he's doing for the world. The Brian Flores lawsuit is just a business dispute. The Trump support is about tax policy and economic growth.
And he doesn't seem to feel the cognitive dissonance that the rest of us feel looking at it.
Doesn't seem to bother him. He also gave $100 million to the World Resources Institute to create the WRI Ross Center for Sustainable Cities.
So he's a green crusader.
An anti-racism advocate, a Trump supporter, and a ruthless real estate tycoon all at the same time.
He is a city-state. That's the best way to describe him.
That's a compelling, if slightly terrifying, way to look at it.
He operates like a sovereign nation. A nation has a defense budget, a foreign aid budget, a trade policy. They don't always align perfectly from an ethical standpoint, but they all serve the interests of the state.
And Stephen Ross is the state.
It's the reality of that level of wealth. You stop being a person and you start being an economy.
That's well said.
So we've been talking for a while now. We've dissected the tax schemes, the engineering marvels, the stadium gambles, the scandals. If I'm a listener trying to wrap my head around Stephen M. Ross, what is the one thing I should take away from all this?
I think the biggest lesson is about the leverage of technical mastery. Ross didn't win because he had the best smile or the firmest handshake.
It wasn't about personality.
No. He won because he understood the tax code of 1972 better than the other guys at the table.
He read the fine print.
He weaponized the fine print. He realized that the government incentives, whether it was for affordable housing in the 70s or for the massive tax breaks for Hudson Yards in the 2010s, were the engine. He didn't fight the current. He just found out where the river was flowing and built a dam to catch all the money.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most creative tool in business isn't the marketing deck. It's the legal brief or the tax code.
Absolutely. And the second big takeaway is that idea of placemaking. Don't just sell a product. Create the ecosystem that makes the product necessary.
Don't just buy a team.
Build a world where the team is the center of gravity for entertainment, for sports, for everything.
But I want to leave with one final thought on that rule breaker mentality. We started this whole conversation with him getting fired for clashing with a boss.
Right.
He then spent the next 50 years ensuring he never had a boss ever again.
He became the ultimate boss.
But the NFL tampering scandal proves that even the ultimate boss hits a wall eventually. The rules finally caught up to him. And it makes me wonder, is that risk-taking, that willingness to tamper, to push, to ignore the word no, is that the fatal flaw in his character? Or is it the only reason Hudson Yards even exists? Can you have the vision to build a city on a platform without also having the arrogance to think you're above the law?
I don't think you can. I think they are two sides of the exact same coin. The audacity that it takes to look at an open rail yard and say, I'm going to build a neighborhood there,
Yeah.
is the same audacity that makes you think you can just tap up Tom Brady on your yacht and get away with it. You can't buy one without the other.
A complicated legacy for a complicated man. Stephen Ross, the tax attorney who rebuilt New York.
And gave us a lot to talk about today.
Thanks for diving in with us. There is so much more detail in the show notes. We've got links to the Mary Jo White report, breakdowns of the tax structures, the whole history of Hudson Yards. Go check those out if you really want to geek out on the numbers.
Definitely worth a read.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
See you then.